study by the Harvard Business Review cited that only 6% of American workers love their job. 6% means 94% of them don't. 94% of all of us don't. We might not hate our jobs, but we wouldn't check the box. We absolutely love it. I'm interested, and I bet you are too, in what our professional lives and subsequently our personal lives would look like if we could find a way to flip that statistic on its head. Imagine if 94% of the people you're working with, working for, or who are working for you would check the box. They absolutely love their job. Now, I have coached thousands of dental and healthcare professionals in the 25 years I've been coaching. And many of them express levels of dissatisfaction with their work directly related to the quality or maybe the low quality of their relationships with the people they're working with. Now, they cite high levels of negativity, blaming, complaining, gossiping, coupled with high levels of a lack of accountability and immature communicating as the main reasons that they have these poor relationships. My name is Catherine Itel Belt, and as a CSP who's delivered over 2,000 presentations to dental and healthcare professionals, I know firsthand that these professionals are struggling with a lack of skills and understanding about how to improve those relationships at work. Today, I'm going to share with you 3 ways to shift into a really strong leadership mindset from which to speak. Once you're ready to speak, I'm going to teach you a 4-step conversation framework to guide your conversation and keep you on track and help you realize success in the midst of conflict. And lastly, I'm going to show you 3 tools that I always deliver to my audiences so that they can apply these skills back in the workplace. Now, there's a reason this is an important topic today. Stress is at an all-time high. Here's what I know. When stress is heightened, patience is tested, triggers get pulled, and tempers flare. And there is a cost to the bottom line of a business with this level of conflict. Some people say that conflict management is a soft skill, but I want to show you how it has a direct effect on your bottom line. We know that 85% of American workers say they are experiencing some level of conflict at work, and 30% of them say they're experiencing it constantly. The average American worker is spending 3 hours a week either thinking about conflict or actively embroiled in it. That equates to 2 weeks a year per employee of lost productivity, lost creativity, and lost focus on their job. Imagine if you could get that back per employee every year. And for managers, it's worse. Managers are spending 40 to 50% of their time solving issues or thinking about issues that other people ought to be able to solve for themselves if they had the skills. But here's the good news. When you give people these skills, 95% of them report that things got better almost immediately for them. And businesses that invest in this training 1 year later report on average a 20% increase in their productivity and profitability. So let's talk about how you do it. The first place we start is with shifting the mindset of all the leaders at every level to a strong emotional platform from which to speak. We do that by teaching them 3 tools. One is the art of taking the focus off of the other person in the beginning and actually focusing it internally on ourselves. We teach them to move from a victim's mindset to a more empowered leadership mindset so they can speak from there. We want to show them how they can take responsibility for whatever their part of the disagreement or the dysfunction is. And there always is some level of responsibility from us. What have we been ignoring? What have we not trained well? What expectation did we not make clear? What have we ignored or participated in even? We ask the leaders in the room at every level to consider that before they go to engage and manage conflict, that they first take a look at themselves. The second piece we teach is to challenge something we call our BS. What that stands for is our belief structures or belief systems. We show leaders at every level how we're all operating on a set of beliefs at all times. And the best leaders know that and know how to challenge those beliefs, especially limiting beliefs we have about other people, about what they will be willing to do or not willing to do. We challenge our beliefs about the circumstances and what might be possible. Challenging your limiting beliefs gives us access to greater possibilities. And the third thing we teach is to operate from something I call the flow, which is really a metaphor for a strong emotional platform from which to make our most important decisions and to have our most important conversations. I use the analogy of a beautiful river or flow with muddy banks on the side. The muddy banks represent a very weak emotional platform for leaders to speak from and make decisions from. And we learn in the presentation that we know we're in the mud based on how we feel. When we feel negative, when we feel fearful, when we feel frustrated, angry, pessimistic, judgmental, guilty, we're blaming other people. All of those negative emotions are our indicator that we're in the mud. And we talk about the fact that this is not a strong place from which to have a great conversation. It's much better and the sign of a great leader to recognize they're in the mud and to have some tools to shift themselves over to the flow. In the flow, a strong emotional platform, we feel the opposite. We feel confident. We feel courageous. We feel benevolent and forgiving, non judgmental. We feel optimistic about the future, a very different place and better place from which to have our conversation. Once we've explored that, we move into now the skill set of a courageous leader and someone who knows how to have courageous conversations. To teach this skill set, we use a framework with the acronym ARCH. And ARCH is a beautiful acronym for sort of demonstrating the bridge between the disconnect or the conflict and the resolution. The A in ARCH stands for two things: speaking from a platform of affirmation for the person behind the behavior, and also finding a place of agreement from which to step off from. So I'll give you some examples. We teach in this presentation how to speak to directly to the behaviors or outcomes we want to be different, rather than speaking to the inherent value in the human being. So we want to affirm that there's much we admire or respect or like about the person. What we want to talk about are the outcomes, the results, the behaviors, the attitudes that are being exhibited. Secondly, we want to also remember to find a place where both parties could agree about this issue. We have some places we don't agree, but we want to speak to the places, step off from a place of agreement. So for example, it might sound like, would you agree that our day tends to start on time and stay on time when all of us arrive on time to the practice? That's a great place to step off to talk about someone being late to work. The R in ARCH represents the place we negotiate a new resolution, find a new agreement, explore ideas for how we could move the marker on success within this issue. It's the place that people make requests. What are you requesting? What are they requesting? Once that's been established, then we move to the C in ARCH, which is where we clarify the commitments that have just been made. We want to make sure no one leaves this conversation with any lack of clarity around who will do what and by when. And finally, the H in ARCH stands for what I call the cloak of hope. We wrap the conversation in this cloak of optimism for the future based on our new agreement, and gratitude for the willingness of this person or people to engage in this conversation and solve this conflict. Now, I have found that learning the mindset And also, learning the skill set of a courageous conversation isn't enough. Audiences need some tools to be able to apply this back at their workplace. One of the tools we give them is our Courageous Conversations support sheet, our gift to the audience, to be able to post this or put this at their workplace and use it as a reminder tool about the skills they'll need to navigate this differently in the future. The second tool I leave them with is the gift of live demonstration in the room of how this all works. I invite some volunteers up onto the stage to tell us about an issue they're currently dealing with. I ask them to step into the voice of the other person, and I step into their voice. And I demonstrate for them and the audience how, even though I didn't know this situation in advance, I don't need to, because this framework is one I can trust. And I demonstrate how trustworthy it is right there on the stage in front of the audience so they can begin to believe in it and to feel strong and confident within it. The third gift that I leave them with is practice. So now that they trust and believe in the frameworks we've taught, now we help them navigate a short practice session so that they get their feet wet, they get some confidence in the skills, and they're able to go back and apply it in the workplace. My Courageous Conversations presentations directly address the frustrations that leaders, managers, and professional teams are facing today. It's an engaging, interactive session that's filled with simplified, innovative, and usable content, and always packs a strong dose of inspiration, laughter, and fun. There is nothing I love more than moving an audience to action with higher levels of professional leadership and communication ability. My personal mission is to encourage and teach my audiences to have more courageous conversations with their patients, their teams, their families, and their communities. I would love to partner with you to bring this important message of hope and inspiration to your audiences and teams, because together we could literally change the world.